The abandoned school didn't trap me. Something inside rewrote my memories so I'd walk back in. My name is Oliver Marsh, and I honestly thought going back to Brackenmere would be the thing that saved me. That sounds dramatic now, I know, but at the time it felt simple. I was 30, tired, skint, and sick of waking up in a flat in Leeds that never really felt like mine. The rent had gone up twice in 1 year. My job had become the sort of thing that made my chest tighten before I even opened my emails. And the headaches had started again. They weren't normal headaches either. They sat behind my eyes like pressure building under a locked door. Some mornings I'd wake up convinced I'd heard a bell ringing, even though there was no school near my flat and no church close enough to explain it. So when my aunt's old house came back into my name, I told myself it was a sign, a quiet house in a quiet town, a bit of space, fresh air, maybe a chance to reset. Brackenmere was in North Yorkshire, tucked between hills and wet stone walls, the sort of place people describe as charming when they only pass through for a weekend. When I was younger, I remembered it being busy enough. Not exciting, but alive. There had been a butcher on the corner, a little bakery with steamed-up windows, kids hanging about outside the chippy, buses coughing fumes outside the grammar school at 3:30. But when I drove back in, just after 4 on a gray Monday afternoon, the town looked as if someone had paused it years ago and forgotten to press play again. The butcher's was boarded up. The bakery window had a crack running through it from top to bottom. The chippy sign was still there, but the inside was dark, and someone had taped newspaper over the glass. Every other house seemed to have a faded estate agent board outside it, either for sale or sold subject to contract, though none of them looked lived in. I remember slowing the car without meaning to. There were no children walking home, no dog walkers, no cyclists, not even a bus. Just wet roads, shut curtains, and that horrible soft silence you get in places where people are watching but don't want to be seen watching. I tried to laugh it off. I actually said out loud, "Cheerful, isn't it?" But my own voice sounded wrong inside the car. My aunt's house was on Ashwick Row, a narrow terrace near the edge of town. The key still worked, though it took a bit of force, and the door opened with a damp wooden groan that made me pause before stepping inside. Everything smelled of dust, old carpet, and cold radiators. There was a stack of unopened letters behind the door, most of them junk, a few addressed to my aunt, one with no name at all, just the address. Ashwick Row, Brackenmere, no stamp, no postmark. I picked it up, turned it over, and for some reason my fingers went cold. It was probably nothing. Some local nonsense, a neighbor posting something through years ago, but I didn't open it. I put it on the little table by the stairs and told myself I'd deal with it later. That was the thing about that first day. Everything seemed fine, or close enough to fine, as long as I kept moving. I opened curtains, checked the boiler, ran the taps until the water stopped coughing brown. I found a mug in the cupboard, rinsed it 3 times, and made tea that tasted faintly of metal. Normal things. Practical things. Things that made me feel like a person in control of his own life. Then, near 5:30, I heard the bell. Not a doorbell, a school bell. 3 hard rings, faint but clear, coming from somewhere beyond the back of the house. I stood in the kitchen with the mug halfway to my mouth. At first, I thought it must be a church. Then I remembered Brackenmere didn't have one with a working bell anymore. The old chapel had been turned in before I left. The sound came again. 1 ring this time. Sharp, metallic, far too close. I went to the back window and looked out over the small garden. Beyond the fence, past a strip of rough grass and winter bare trees, I could see the top of Brackenmere Grammar, my old school. At least I thought it was my old school. It sat on the hill behind Ashwick Row, a dark Victorian building of red brick and blackened stone, with narrow windows and a clock tower that had always looked too tall for the rest of it. I remembered walking through those gates in a blazer that never fit right. I remembered assemblies in the hall. I remembered rainwater dripping through the ceiling outside the maths rooms. I remembered being scared of older boys by the bike sheds. But looking at it then, through the kitchen glass, I felt something twist inside me. The school looked abandoned. Not closed for the evening. Not under renovation. Abandoned. The windows were either boarded or broken. Ivy had swallowed one whole side of the building. The roof lines sagged in places, and the old clock face was missing both hands. There was a chain across the main gates, but even from my kitchen I could see something pale hanging from it, moving slightly in the wind. I told myself not to go. I'd been in town less than 2 hours. I hadn't eaten properly. My head was already starting to throb. Any sensible person would have shut the curtain, locked the door, and left it until morning. But I couldn't stop looking at that pale shape on the gate. So I put on my coat and walked up there. The path behind the houses was muddy, bordered by nettles and low stone walls slick with moss. Halfway up, I noticed there were no birds. That sounds like something people only say in stories, but it's true. No birds, no insects, no distant traffic. Just my shoes pulling from the mud and my breath getting louder the closer I got. By the time I reached the school gates, my headache had almost disappeared. That should have frightened me more than it did. The pale thing on the chain was a school tie, maroon and gray, Brackenmere colors. It was clean, not weathered, not rotting, not faded from years outside. Clean, like someone had tied it there that morning. I reached out, then stopped. Behind me, someone said I wouldn't touch that. I turned so quickly my foot slipped in the mud. A man stood near the hedge to the left of the gate. He was older, maybe late 60s, wearing a flat cap and a dark green coat that looked too thin for the cold. He held a pair of garden shears in one hand, though there was no garden anywhere near him. His face was pale and narrow, with watery eyes that didn't seem surprised to see me. "Sorry," I said, trying to sound normal. "Didn't see you there." "No," he said, "most don't." I gave a nervous laugh, but he didn't smile. "I used to go here," I told him. "Years ago. I didn't realize it had shut." The man looked at the building, then back at me. "Did you?" I frowned. "Did I what?" "Go here." For a second, I felt genuinely offended. "Yeah, course I did." He nodded slowly, as if I'd given the wrong answer, but he wasn't going to correct me yet. "What happened to it?" I asked. "The school, I mean." His grip tightened around the shears. "You'll want to ask that in daylight." "It is daylight." He looked up at the gray sky. "No," he said quietly. "Not here, it isn't." Before I could ask what that meant, something moved behind one of the upstairs windows. A face appeared between two broken boards, small, pale, childlike. It was there for less than a second, but I saw it clearly enough to know it was looking straight at me. Then the school bell rang again. Once, right above us. The old man flinched so hard he dropped the shears. And that was the first moment I understood something was badly wrong with Brackenmere. Not neglected, not forgotten, wrong. Because the clock tower had no bell in it. I knew that. I remembered that. At least I thought I did. I didn't realize I'd stepped back from the gates until my heel hit the uneven stone behind me. The bell stopped as suddenly as it had started, leaving that same thick, pressing silence in its wake. For a moment, neither of us said anything. The man bent down slowly, almost stiffly, to pick up his shears, but his eyes never left the building. "You heard that, didn't you?" I said, my voice lower than I meant it to be. He didn't answer straight away. Instead, he wiped his palm along the side of his coat as if it had suddenly gone damp, then glanced at me properly for the first time. "Best not to linger," he muttered, "especially not at this hour." "It's barely evening," I said, and that I pointed up at the tower. "That came from inside. There's someone in there." He gave a small shake of his head, the sort you give a child who's just said something daft. "No one's in there," he said. "Not anymore." I hesitated, then forced a laugh. "Look, I just saw." "You didn't," he cut in, not unkindly but firm. "You think you did. Happens when you come back after a long time. Mind plays tricks, fills in gaps." That unsettled me more than anything else he'd said. "How do you know I've been away?" I asked. He didn't reply. Instead, he turned his body slightly, angling himself between me and the gate without making it obvious. It was subtle, but deliberate, like he was blocking a path I hadn't even realized I was about to take. "I live down on Ashwick Row," I added, gesturing vaguely behind me. "Just moved back today." "I know where you are," he said. There was no pause, no thinking, just certainty. Something cold slipped down my spine. "Right," I said, trying to keep my tone light. "So, what, you're the caretaker or something?" His mouth twitched. "Something like that." I glanced past him toward the stretch of overgrown ground that ran along the side of the school. That was when I noticed what he'd been doing. There was a patch of nettles there, waist high and thick, but the soil beneath them had been turned over. Fresh, dark, damp in a way that didn't match the rest of the ground. And he'd been cutting the same narrow strip over and over as if it kept growing back the second he stopped. "You're gardening?" I said, unable to keep the confusion out of my voice. "Tidying," he replied. "That bit?" I pointed. "You've missed everything else." He followed my gaze, then looked back at me. "That's the only bit that matters." I didn't know why that bothered me so much, but it did. There was something about the way he said it. Not defensive, not joking, just factual. Like he wasn't talking about weeds at all. I looked back at the school, trying to ground myself in something normal. Bricks, windows, broken glass, real things. But the longer I stared, the more details started to feel off. The windows weren't just boarded. Some of the boards had scratches along them. Long, shallow marks, like something had been dragged down from the inside. And the chain on the gate, it wasn't rusted the way it should have been. Not for something that had supposedly been there for years. It looked worn, recently handled. "Did it shut down properly?" I asked. "I mean, there must have been something. News, council notice, anything." The man let out a soft breath through his nose. "They said renovation," he replied. "That's what they told people." And people believed it. The way he said it made my stomach tighten. "That's not an answer," I said. "You can't just close a school and—" "Can't you?" he interrupted, his voice suddenly sharper. "You'd be surprised what people accept when it's easier than asking questions." I opened my mouth, then closed it again. There wasn't a good reply to that. Not one that didn't sound like I was arguing for the sake of it. I tried a different angle. "You live round here then? You must remember when it happened." His gaze flicked to mine, and for the first time there was something like irritation in it. "I remember everything that happens here," he said quietly. There was a pause. "Do you?" he added. I swallowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" Instead of answering, he nodded toward the gate. "You should head back," he said. "Get settled. First night's always the worst." "I'm fine," I said a bit too quickly. He raised an eyebrow, as if he didn't believe me for a second. "Of course you are." I glanced up at the building again. The window where I'd seen the face was empty now, just broken boards and darkness behind them. For a second, I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. Almost. "Look," I said, lowering my voice. "If someone's messing about in there, kids or whatever, I can just have a look, make sure nothing's going on." The man stepped closer. Not aggressively, just enough. "You don't go in," he said. It wasn't a suggestion. "Why not?" "Because it's closed. That's not a reason. It is here." Something in his tone made my chest tighten again. Not anger, not exactly. More like certainty. Like he'd already had this conversation before with other people, and it had never ended well. "I'm not planning on breaking in," I said, though even as I said it, I knew that wasn't entirely true. "Just looking." He shook his head slowly. "You think you've come back here by choice," he said. I frowned. "What? You think this is you?" he went on, tapping his temple lightly. "Decision, fresh start, bit of nostalgia." His lips pressed into a thin line. "It isn't." A small, nervous laugh escaped me. "Right, and what the town's dragged me back, has it?" He didn't smile. "The town doesn't do anything," he said. "The school does." That was the moment I felt it properly. Not fear, not exactly, not yet, but something heavier. Like the ground under my feet wasn't as solid as I'd assumed. Like there was a second version of what was happening, just out of sight, and I was the only one who hadn't caught on. "That doesn't make any sense," I said, though my voice had dropped again. "It will," he replied. "Give it time." We stood there for a few seconds, neither of us moving. Then from somewhere inside the building, there was a sound. Not the bell this time. A chair scraping. Slow. Deliberate. Like someone dragging it across the floor. I felt my breath catch in my throat. "You hear that?" I whispered. The man closed his eyes for a moment. "Yes." "So there is someone in there." "No," he said again, opening them. "There isn't." Another scrape, closer this time, followed by something else, a voice, faint, muffled, but unmistakably human. "Help!" The word barely reached us, carried thinly through the broken windows, but it was enough. Every instinct I had told me to move. "Someone's in trouble," I said, stepping toward the gate. "I'm not just going to—" The moment I crossed the line of the shadow cast by the school, it hit me. The headache. Not the dull pressure from earlier. This was different. Sharp, immediate, like something had driven a spike straight through the center of my skull. I gasped and stumbled, grabbing the gate to keep myself upright. The metal felt cold, too cold, and for a second my vision blurred at the edges. "Back!" the man said sharply. I ignored him, forcing myself to look up at the building. The pain eased, just a little, enough for me to realize something that made my stomach drop. It wasn't random, it wasn't illness, it was directional. When I leaned forward toward the school, the pain pulled back. When I shifted my weight away, it surged again, harder, sharper, like it was punishing me for trying to leave. "What the hell?" I muttered, pressing a hand to my forehead. "Now you see," the man said quietly. I turned to him, breathing uneven. "What is this?" He watched me for a moment, then nodded slowly, as if confirming something to himself. "You'll come back tomorrow," he said. "That's not, answer me." "You'll come back," he repeated, "when it calls properly." I'm not. Another pulse of pain slammed into me, so hard my knees buckled. I caught myself against the gate again, teeth clenched, vision swimming, and through it, faint but clear, I heard the bell, one single ring, right above my head. When the pain eased, I was still leaning toward the school, still holding on to the gate, still looking at those dark, broken windows. I started, then stopped, because the worst part wasn't the pain, it was the certainty creeping in behind it. He was right. I was going to come back, not because I wanted to, but because something inside that building had already decided I would. I didn't remember walking back down the path. That was the first thing that bothered me later. One moment I was gripping the school gate, head pounding, staring into those blacked out windows, and the next I was standing in my aunt's kitchen again, the kettle screaming like it had been left boiling too long. I switched it off without thinking. My hands were shaking. Not badly, not enough to panic, just enough. "I'm fine," I said out loud, to no one, "just tired." But my voice sounded thinner than it should have. The house felt colder than before. Not the normal kind of cold either, not draughty or damp, but the sort that sits under your skin. I rubbed my arms and forced myself to focus on something normal. Tea, food, a shower, anything that wasn't that building on the hill. For a while, everything did seem fine. I sat in the living room with the telly on low, not really watching it. Some quiz show, people laughing too loudly at answers that weren't funny. The kind of background noise that makes a place feel less empty. I kept telling myself I'd imagined the voice. That was the sensible explanation, wasn't it? A long drive, stress, headaches. A strange town that didn't feel like it used to. Of course my brain would fill in the gaps. Of course I'd think I saw someone at the window. Of course I'd hear something that wasn't there. But then the bell rang again. Not outside, inside the house. I froze. It wasn't loud, it wasn't echoing. It was close, like it had come from the hallway. One clean metallic ring. I turned my head slowly toward the door. "Hello?" I called, immediately regretting it. Silence. The telly kept muttering in the background, completely out of place now. I stood up, every movement careful, deliberate, like if I went too fast something would notice me. The hallway light was off. I was sure I'd left it on. I stepped out of the living room and flicked the switch. Nothing happened. The bulb didn't even flicker. "Right," I muttered. "Fuse box, that's all." I took a step forward and heard it again. Help. Clearer this time. Closer. Coming from upstairs. My chest tightened. "No," I said quietly. "No, that's not." The floor above creaked. Slow. Measured. Like someone shifting their weight. I felt my legs go cold. There shouldn't have been anyone in the house. I checked every room when I got in. Every cupboard. Every door. The place had been empty. I knew it had. But I also knew what I'd heard. I stood at the bottom of the stairs, staring up into the darkness. The voice came again. "Please." It sounded like a girl. Young. Frightened. My first instinct was to leave. Just turn around, walk out the front door, get back in the car, and not stop until I was miles away from Brackenmere. But something else pushed back against that. A stubborn, stupid part of me that said, if someone's actually up there, you can't just walk away. "I'm coming up," I called, trying to keep my voice steady. "Just stay where you are, all right?" No answer. I put one foot on the first step. The headache hit immediately. Not as bad as before, but sharp enough to make me wince. "What is wrong with me?" I muttered, pressing my fingers against my temple. I took another step. The pain eased. Another. Eased again. By the time I reached the top of the stairs, it was almost gone. I stood there for a second, breathing slowly, trying to ignore the way my heart was hammering against my ribs. The landing stretched out in front of me, doors on either side, all closed, except one, at the very end. The door to my aunt's spare bedroom. It was open just a crack, a thin strip of darkness inside. I didn't remember leaving it like that. "I can hear you," I said, my voice barely above a whisper now. "You're not in trouble. I just need to see where you are." No response. I stepped forward, each footfall loud in the silence. The closer I got to the door, the colder it felt. Not just the air, the space itself, like the warmth had been drained out of that end of the landing completely. When I reached the doorway, I stopped. Something about it felt wrong. Not in a way I could explain, just a feeling. Like standing too close to the edge of something you couldn't see. I pushed the door open. The room was empty. Of course it was. Bare bed, wardrobe, thin curtains shifting slightly in a breeze I couldn't feel anywhere else in the house. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. "Brilliant," I muttered. "You're losing it already." I turned to leave, and the door slammed shut behind me. Hard. The sound cracked through the room like a gunshot. I spun around, grabbing the handle immediately, yanking it down. It didn't move. "What the?" I pulled harder. Nothing. The headache came back, worse this time. It wasn't just pressure anymore. It felt like something was inside my head, pushing outward, like it was trying to split my skull open from the inside. I staggered back, gripping the side of the bed. "Stop," I gasped, though I didn't know who I was talking to. Then I saw her. At first, I thought it was a trick of the light, a shape near the window. Faint, pale, almost not there at all. But then it moved, slowly turning its head toward me. A girl, standing between the curtains and the glass. Her outline shimmered, like heat rising off tarmac, but her face was wrong, too still, too blank. Her eyes were open, but they didn't quite line up with where they should have been, like they'd been put back in the wrong place. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. "I heard you," I managed, my voice barely working. You asked for help." Her lips parted, but when she spoke, it wasn't the same voice I'd heard on the stairs. It was flat, empty. "You shouldn't be here." The headache spiked. I dropped to one knee, clutching my head. This is my house," I said, though even as I said it, the words felt uncertain. She took a step forward. Her feet didn't make a sound. The floorboards didn't creak. Nothing reacted to her at all. "No," she said, "it isn't." Another step. Closer now. I could see more of her. Her clothes weren't right. Not modern. A school uniform, maybe, but not one I recognized properly. Dark blazer, skirt, a tie that hung loose at her collar, and around her neck, there were marks, dark, deep, like someone had pressed their fingers into her skin and never let go. "I can get help," I said quickly, forcing myself up, backing toward the wall. "Just stay there, all right? I'll call someone, You already came," she said. Her head tilted slightly, the movement jerky, unnatural. "You came back." "I just moved in," I said, my voice rising despite myself. "I don't know what you're talking about." "You do." The words hit harder than they should have, like they meant something I couldn't quite reach. The headache surged again. Images flashed behind my eyes. A corridor, lockers, a bell ringing, children laughing, then screaming. I gasped, stumbling sideways. "What is this? What are you doing to me?" She didn't answer. She just kept walking toward me. Slow, relentless, until she was close enough that I could see the faint blue tint to her skin, close enough that I could feel the cold coming off her in waves. "You shouldn't have come back," she said again. "I didn't," I started, then stopped. Because suddenly, I wasn't sure. I looked at her, really looked, and for a split second, I recognized her. Not clearly, not fully, just a flicker, a memory that didn't quite exist. My stomach dropped. "I know you," I whispered. Her expression didn't change, but something in her eyes did. "You did," she said. The door behind me rattled, once, twice, then something slammed into it from the outside, hard enough to make the whole frame shudder. I flinched, turning instinctively. What the hell was that? Another impact, louder, closer, like someone or something was trying to get in. The girl didn't react. She just stood there watching me. "You have to go," she said. "Through that?" I gestured at the door, my voice cracking. "Something's trying to break it down." "Not that way." She lifted her hand, slowly, pointing behind me, toward the window. I turned. The curtains were moving again. More violently this time. The glass was wrong, dark, too dark, Like there was no outside anymore, no garden, no street, just nothing. I'm not jumping out of a second floor window, I said, shaking my head. That's not happening. You don't have time, she said. Another slam hit the door. This time, something splintered. Wood cracking. A low sound came through the gap. Not quite a voice. Not quite anything human. I felt my chest tighten. What is that? I whispered. Her eyes flicked toward the door for the first time. And for a second, just a second, I saw fear. Too late, she said. The door burst inward, and whatever came through it wasn't alone. I don't remember hitting the window. That's the truth. 1 second I was staring at the door, splintering inward, something forcing its way through the frame. Too many arms, too many shapes moving where there should only have been one body. And the next I was outside, flat on my back, gasping. The cold air hit my lungs so hard it felt like I'd swallowed ice. I lay there for a second, blinking up at the sky, trying to understand how I'd got from that room to the ground. My head was still ringing, but the pain had dulled, like it had retreated the moment I'd left the house, or been pushed out of it. I rolled onto my side, coughing, and looked back up. The spare room window was closed, shut tight, curtains still. No broken glass, no sign anything had happened at all. No, that's not right, I muttered, dragging myself to my feet. I knew what I'd seen. I knew what I'd felt. That door, whatever was behind it. That girl. My stomach twisted. The girl. I stepped closer to the house, squinting up at the window. Hello? I called, my voice hoarse. Are you still? The light inside flicked on. I froze. A shape moved behind the curtain. For a second, I thought it might be her, but it wasn't. It was taller, broader, and the way it moved, it wasn't right. The curtain twitched just slightly, like something had brushed against it from the inside. Then everything went still again. I took a step back. Nope, I said quietly. No, no. My hands were shaking properly now. Not just a tremor. Full on, can't hold still shaking. I turned and walked fast around to the front of the house, fumbling for my keys. I unlocked the door, pushed it open, and stepped inside, half expecting something to be standing there waiting for me. But the hallway was empty, exactly as I'd left it. The light was still off. The fuse box hadn't tripped. The telly was still murmuring in the living room. It looked normal, completely normal. I shut the door behind me and locked it, then leaned back against it, breathing hard. All right, I whispered. All right, think. Someone had been upstairs. That much was clear. I hadn't imagined the voice. I hadn't imagined the door slamming. I definitely hadn't imagined being thrown or pushed out of a second-floor window. But if that was true, then where was the damage? Why wasn't the window broken? Why wasn't the door upstairs in pieces? Why did the house look like nothing had happened? My chest tightened again. Slowly, reluctantly, I pushed myself off the door. I'm not going back up there, I said out loud, and I meant it, for about 10 seconds. Then the thought crept in. What if she was still there? What if whatever came through that door? No, that was a terrible idea. But I couldn't just ignore it. I grabbed the nearest thing I could find, a heavy brass candle holder from the table, and held it tight in my hand. It wasn't much, but it felt better than going up there empty-handed. Just a look, I muttered. Quick look, then you're done. You're going to bed. You're not thinking about this anymore. I moved toward the stairs. Every step felt heavier than the last. The air got colder again as I climbed, that same unnatural chill wrapping around my arms, slipping under my clothes. The headache didn't come back, not yet, but there was a pressure building again, faint, like something waiting just behind a door. At the top of the stairs, I stopped. The landing looked exactly as it had before, all the doors closed, including the spare room, fully closed, not even a crack. I stared at it. I left that open, I whispered. No response. Of course there wasn't. I stepped forward, slow, careful, every instinct screaming at me to turn around and go back downstairs. When I reached the door, I didn't touch the handle straight away. I just stood there, listening. Nothing. No movement, no voice, no scraping, just silence. I swallowed, then reached out and pushed the door open. The room was empty. Again, same bed, same wardrobe, same thin curtains barely shifting in that non-existent breeze. No girl, no marks, no sign of anything. I let out a shaky breath and stepped inside, scanning the corners, the ceiling, the floor. Brilliant, I muttered. Absolutely brilliant. I walked over to the window. Still intact. No cracks, no broken latch. No sign I'd gone through it. I touched the glass. Solid. You're losing it, I said quietly. That's all this is. Stress, headaches, new place. Something moved in the reflection. I froze. Slowly, very slowly, I lifted my eyes from the glass to the mirror of the room behind me. The doorway. There was someone standing in it. I turned sharply. Nothing. The landing was empty. The door hung open, exactly where I'd left it. I stared at it for a long second, my heart hammering in my chest. Then, cautiously, I stepped back out onto the landing. Hello? I called again. Silence. I moved to the next room, pushing the door open. Empty. The next. Empty. Bathroom. Empty. Every room in the house was exactly as it should have been. No sign of anyone else. No sign of anything. By the time I made it back downstairs, my head was spinning. Not from pain, from confusion. None of it made sense. It didn't follow any kind of logic. There was no clear line between what was real and what wasn't. One moment I was in danger, the next everything reset like nothing had happened. Like the house was correcting itself. I sank down onto the sofa, still clutching the candle holder, and stared at the floor. All right, I said slowly. Let's say you imagined it. Even as I said it, I didn't believe it. You imagined the girl. You imagined the voice. You imagined being thrown out of the window. I looked down at my hands. There were small cuts along my palms, fresh, thin lines of red still drying. From glass. I swallowed. Right, I whispered. So not imagined. The room felt smaller suddenly, the walls closer, the silence heavier. My eyes drifted to the hallway, to the stairs, to the darkness at the top of them. And then, without warning, something clicked in my head. Not a sound, a thought. Sharp, clear, wrong. The girl, she hadn't just told me to leave. She'd said, you came back. Not you came here. Back, like I'd been there before. Like I already knew that place. My stomach twisted again. No, I said, shaking my head. No, that's not. But the more I thought about it, the worse it got. The school, the layout, the way I'd recognized it without really thinking. The corridors, the assembly hall, even the tie on the gate. I'd known what it was straight away. Too quickly. Like it wasn't memory. Like it was something else. Something planted. My chest tightened. What if I started, then stopped, because the thought was ridiculous. It had to be. But it wouldn't go away. What if I didn't go to Brackenmere Grammar? I sat there in silence for a long time, staring at nothing, letting that idea settle. It didn't feel wrong. That was the problem. It didn't feel wrong at all. It felt possible. And that scared me more than anything I'd seen upstairs. Because if I couldn't trust my own memories, then how was I supposed to know what was real? The bell rang again. This time I didn't move, didn't even flinch. I just sat there listening to it echo through the house. One ring, then silence. And somewhere, deep down, beneath the fear and confusion and everything else, something shifted. Because for the first time since I'd arrived in Brackenmere, I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was thinking. And the more I thought about it, the clearer one thing became. Whatever was happening, it wasn't random. It wasn't in my head. And it wasn't finished with me yet. I didn't sleep that night. I tried. I really did. I lay on the sofa with the telly on low, lights on in every room I could see from where I was sitting, telling myself I'd close my eyes just for a minute. But every time I did, I heard something. Not loud, not obvious, just enough. A soft step above me, a faint knock in the walls. Once, I swear I heard breathing, slow, steady, like someone standing just out of sight. By 3 a.m, I gave up pretending I was going to rest. I sat upright, arms folded, staring at the stairs like if I watched them long enough, something would finally show itself. Nothing did. That was the worst part. It was like the house had decided it didn't need to prove anything else, like it had already shown me enough. Around 5, the sky started to lighten, that dull gray Yorkshire morning creeping in through the curtains, the kind of light that usually makes things feel safer. It didn't. If anything, it made the whole place feel more exposed, like whatever had been hiding in the dark had simply stepped back a bit, waiting. I stood up slowly, my joints stiff, my head heavy. No more guessing, I muttered. You're going back. Even saying it out loud made something tighten in my chest. But I knew it was true, because the moment I thought about leaving Brackenmere, just getting in the car, driving until the petrol ran out, that pressure started to build again behind my eyes. Not full pain yet, just a warning, like something was testing me. So I didn't argue with it. I grabbed my coat, shoved my keys into my pocket, and stepped outside. The street looked even worse in daylight. The for sale signs weren't just faded, they were old. Some of them bent, edges peeling, dates half scratched out as if they'd been there longer than they should have been. A couple of windows had curtains drawn back slightly, just enough that I could feel eyes on me, though every time I looked properly, there was nothing there. Morning, I called, just to break the silence. No one answered. I started walking toward the path behind the houses again, my steps quicker this time. Like if I didn't think about it too much, I wouldn't have the chance to turn back. The closer I got to the school, the lighter my head felt. Not just the absence of pain, relief. That was the part that made my skin crawl, because it didn't feel like my relief. It felt given, like I was being rewarded for going where I was supposed to. Yeah, I muttered under my breath. That's not normal, is it? The path was quieter than before, if that was even possible. The mud hadn't shifted, no new footprints, no sign anyone else had been through since I left. When the school came into view, I slowed. In daylight, it looked even worse. The ivy wasn't just climbing. It had forced its way into cracks in the brickwork, splitting parts of the wall open. One of the upper windows had collapsed inward completely, leaving a jagged hole that looked less like damage and more like something had pushed its way out. And the gate, the chain was still there, the tie still hanging, but something had changed. I stepped closer, squinting at it. The fabric wasn't clean anymore. There was a mark across it, dark, smudged. I didn't need to touch it to know what it was. Right, I whispered. So things do change. Of course they do. The voice came from my left again, calm, familiar. I turned. The man, Pritchard, or whatever his name actually was back in the same spot as yesterday, crouched beside that patch of nettles, trimming them with the same slow, deliberate movements. I hadn't heard him approach. I hadn't heard anything. You're early, he said, not looking up. I didn't sleep, I replied. Funny that. He gave a quiet hum, like that didn't surprise him in the slightest. You went in the house, he added. I frowned. What? You let it follow you, he said. My stomach dropped. I didn't let anything do anything. I snapped, a bit sharper than I meant to. Something was already there. He paused, the shears hovering just above the nettles, then finally looked at me. And you're sure it wasn't? He asked. I stared at him. What's that supposed to mean? Instead of answering, he straightened up slowly, resting his weight on one leg as he studied me properly. You've started remembering, he said. I don't remember anything, I shot back. That's the problem. He tilted his head slightly. Is it? I let out a frustrated breath and ran a hand through my hair. Look, I don't know what's going on here, I said. I don't know what that thing was in my house, or what I saw in that school yesterday, or why my head feels like it's being squeezed every time I try to leave, but I'm done pretending it's nothing. For the first time, something like approval flickered across his face. Good, he said. That'll help. Help with what? Understanding. I let out a short, humorless laugh. Brilliant. Can we skip to that part then? Because I'd really like to know why a boarded-up school is ringing bells and putting people in my house. He looked back toward the building. It doesn't put anything anywhere, he said quietly. It shows you what's already tied to it. That doesn't make sense. It will. You keep saying that, and you keep coming back. That shut me up, because he wasn't wrong. I glanced at the gates again, the chain, the tie, the broken windows. Everything in me said not to go any closer. And yet, I stepped forward. Just a little. The headache didn't come, not this time. Instead, something else happened. A sound. Soft at first, like distant chatter. I frowned, leaning slightly toward the building. The sound grew clearer. Voices, children, laughing, talking over each other. The kind of noise you'd expect at the end of a school day. My chest tightened. That's not. I started. The voices stopped, dead, gone. Replaced by silence so complete it rang in my ears. I swallowed. Did you hear that? Yes, the man said. So there is something in there. There's always something in there. I turned to him, frustration rising again. Then why hasn't anyone done anything about it? Police, council, anyone? They tried, I blinked. What? They tried, he repeated. Once. What happened? He didn't answer straight away. Instead, he looked down at the patch of nettles, then nudged the soil gently with the tip of his boot. You ever dig a hole, he said, and realize halfway through you don't actually want to know what's buried there? I frowned. What's that got to do with? They stopped digging, he said. Something about the way he said it made my mouth go dry. And left it like this? I asked. They left it, he corrected. I followed his gaze to the ground, to that same patch of turned soil. Something shifted under it. Not much, just enough to disturb the top layer. I took an involuntary step back. You saw that, I said quietly. Yes, what is it? He looked up at me again. You'll find out, he said. I let out a breath, shaking my head. No, I'm not doing this again. No more riddles. You know what's going on here, don't you? He didn't deny it. Then tell me. He studied me for a long moment, as if weighing something up. Then he nodded, just once. Come back tonight, he said. I stared at him. I'm already here. Not like this, he replied. Not in daylight. I'm not waiting until it's dark, I said immediately. You will. The certainty in his voice made my chest tighten again. I'm not. The pressure hit, harder than before, sharp enough to make me gasp. I staggered, grabbing the gate for support, the metal biting into my palm. Stop fighting it, he said quietly. I'm not. I winced, squeezing my eyes shut. I'm not fighting anything. Yes, you are. The pain surged again, worse, like something was pushing back, punishing me. Come back tonight, he repeated, and I'll tell you why you don't remember that place. My breath caught. Why I don't. You never went there, he said. The world seemed to tilt slightly. What? You never went to Brackenmere Grammar, he said, watching me carefully. Not once. That's not, I started, then stopped, because I couldn't finish the sentence. I tried to picture it. The classrooms, the teachers, my classmates, faces, names, anything. And for the first time, there was nothing there, just empty space. My stomach dropped. That's not possible, I whispered. Isn't it? The pain in my head eased slightly. Not gone, just waiting. I looked back at the school, at the broken windows, the dark spaces behind them, the place I was so sure I knew, and for the first time, it didn't feel familiar. It felt like something I'd been told to recognize, something I'd been made to remember. What did I come back to? I asked, my voice barely steady. The man didn't answer. He just turned back to his patch of nettles and started cutting again, slow, deliberate, like nothing we just said mattered. Tonight, he said without looking up. I stood there for a long time after that, staring at the building, at the gate, at that tie swaying slightly in the cold air, and eventually, without really deciding to, I stepped back, turned around, and walked away. Because whether I liked it or not, he was right. I was going to come back, and deep down, beneath the fear and the doubt and everything else, I already knew what I was going to find. Something buried, something waiting, and something that once I saw it, was going to change everything. I told myself I wasn't going back out that night. I repeated it the whole walk down the hill, past the empty houses, past the crooked sailboards, all the way back to Ashwick Row. I'm not doing this, I muttered. Not after dark. Not a chance. And for a while, I meant it. I locked the door behind me, checked every window twice, even dragged one of the dining chairs into the hallway and wedged it under the handle. It felt ridiculous while I was doing it, but also necessary. Like if I didn't take some kind of control over the situation, something else would. Something already had. The house felt different in the afternoon. Not safer, just quieter, like it was holding its breath. I made tea again, more out of habit than anything else, and sat at the kitchen table staring at the back garden. The sky had that dull, colorless look it gets before evening properly sets in, and the trees beyond the fence barely moved, even though I could feel a breeze against the glass. For a moment, just a moment, I let myself believe things might settle. That whatever had happened the night before had been a one-off. That maybe I just pushed too far, too quickly, and my head had filled in the rest. But then everything seemed fine, like nothing would happen. I actually said it out loud, and the second I did, the temperature dropped. Not gradually, instantly. My breath fogged in front of me. I froze, mug halfway to my lips. No, I whispered. No, we're not doing this again. The kitchen clock ticked, loud, too loud, tick, tick, tick. Then it stopped, dead. The silence that followed pressed in from every side. I set the mug down slowly. All right, I said, forcing steadiness into my voice. You're imagining it, but I wasn't, because from somewhere behind me, I heard footsteps, soft, measured, crossing the living room, toward the hallway. My chest tightened. Hello, I called, my voice already thinner than I wanted it to be. No answer. The footsteps stopped, right outside the kitchen door. I stared at the frame, waiting, half expecting the handle to turn, half praying it wouldn't. Nothing happened. A full minute passed, maybe 2. Then, a knock, 3 sharp taps. I flinched hard enough to knock the mug over, tea spilling across the table. "Who's there?" I demanded, louder this time. Silence. I stood up, wiping my hands on my jeans without realizing I was doing it. "Look," I said, trying to keep control of my voice. "If someone's messing about, it's not funny." Nothing. The door didn't move. The handle didn't turn. It was just there. I took a step forward, then another. Every instinct told me not to touch it, but I couldn't just stand there all day. I reached out and grabbed the handle. Cold, freezing. I pulled the door open. The living room was empty, exactly as I'd left it. Telly off, curtains still, no sign of anyone. I let out a breath, half laughing, half swearing under it. "Brilliant," I muttered. "Proper brilliant." I stepped into the room, scanning it anyway, just to be sure. Nothing. No movement, no sound, just that same heavy quiet. I rubbed the back of my neck, trying to shake the feeling crawling up my spine. "You're on edge," I said to myself. "That's all this is." Then something creaked upstairs. I froze again. "No," I whispered. "No, we already checked that." Another creak, longer this time, like someone shifting their weight. I closed my eyes for a second, trying to steady my breathing. "You're not going up there again," I said firmly. Not until the bell rang. Inside the house, louder than before, so loud it made my ears ring. I snapped my eyes open. "Right," I said, my voice shaking now despite everything. "That's enough." The headache slammed into me. Hard, sharp, immediate. I doubled over, gripping the back of the sofa as the pressure built behind my eyes. "Stop," I hissed. "Just stop." And just like before, it eased. Not completely, but enough. Enough to think. Enough to realize something that made my stomach drop. It wasn't just reacting anymore. It was guiding. The pain wasn't random. It wasn't punishment. It was direction. When I stood still, it pulsed. When I turned toward the hallway, it eased. I swallowed hard. "You've got to be joking." The moment I stepped toward the stairs, the pressure lifted further, clearer, sharper, like something had just approved the decision. I stood at the bottom of the stairs again, staring up into the dim light. "This is a bad idea," I said quietly. My body didn't care. I started climbing. 1 step, 2, 3. The higher I went, the calmer my head became. By the time I reached the top, the headache was almost gone entirely. And that scared me more than the pain ever had, because it meant I wasn't in control anymore. The landing looked the same as before, but it felt different. The air was heavier, thicker, like breathing through something invisible. I turned slowly, scanning each door. All closed, all quiet, except the spare room. The handle moved, just slightly. A slow, deliberate turn. I stopped breathing. "No," I whispered. The door creaked open on its own, just a crack, then wider. The darkness inside felt deeper than it should have been, like it wasn't just a room, like it went further than it was supposed to. I didn't move. I couldn't. Something inside me knew if I stepped through that door again, I wasn't coming back out the same. Then, a voice, not the girl's, not the flat, empty tone from before. This one was clearer, urgent. "Oliver." I felt my stomach drop. "Who?" I started, my voice catching. "Oliver, listen to me," the voice said again. "You have to leave, now." It sounded older, panicked, real. I took a step forward without meaning to. "Where are you?" I asked. "In here," the voice said. "The spare room." Of course it was. "Don't go in." I froze. The second voice came from behind me, right at the top of the stairs, slow, calm, too calm. I turned. The girl stood there, the same one from before, pale, still watching me, her eyes fixed on mine. "If you go in," she said quietly, "you won't come back out." I swallowed hard. "Then what's in there?" I asked. Her gaze flicked to the doorway, then back to me. "Something that remembers you," she said. My chest tightened. "I don't." "You do," she interrupted. The voice from inside the room cut in again. "Don't listen to her. Oliver, please, she's lying." The girl didn't react, didn't even look at the door. "She's not trying to hurt you," she said. "Then what is she doing in my house?" I snapped, the fear finally breaking through properly. "She's not," the girl replied. The words hung in the air. Heavy. Wrong. My head started to spin. "What does that mean?" The girl took a step closer. "You brought this with you," she said. The headache flickered. A warning. A push. Toward the door. Behind me. The voice inside grew more frantic. "Oliver, please, if you can hear me, you have to." The sound cut off abruptly, like something had grabbed it. Silence fell again. The girl's expression didn't change. It's trying to pull you back, she said. Back to what? I demanded. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Because I already knew. The school, Brackenmere, the place I supposedly remembered. The place that, according to that man, I'd never even been to. I looked at the open doorway again, at the darkness waiting inside it. And for the first time since I'd come back, I felt something new. Not just fear, not just confusion, understanding. Not full, not clear, but enough. Enough to know this wasn't about the house. It never had been. Whatever was happening, it was coming from the school, and it wasn't going to stop until I went back. I exhaled slowly, my hand still shaking. Right? I muttered. Right? Okay. The girl watched me carefully. You're going, she said. It wasn't a question. I let out a weak laugh. Feels like I don't get much choice. She didn't smile. You don't? I nodded, swallowing hard. Then I suppose I'd better stop pretending this is going to sort itself out. The house creaked softly around us. The cold pressed in closer, and somewhere, faint but clear, the bell rang again. This time, I didn't wait. Because deep down, I already knew. The house wasn't the problem. It was just the warning. And whatever was waiting for me at Brackenmere was done waiting. I didn't pack properly. That's something I realized later. When people talk about going into dangerous places, they always say things like, take supplies, think ahead, prepare yourself. But when it actually happens, when something's pushing you, pulling you, you don't think like that. You just go. I grabbed a torch from the kitchen drawer, one that flickered when you shook it too hard, shoved a bottle of water into my coat pocket, and took the heaviest thing I could find again, the brass candle holder. That was it. No plan, no backup, just the feeling that if I didn't move now, I wouldn't move at all. The moment I stepped out of the house, the headache eased again. That same unnatural relief, like a leash slackening. Yeah, I muttered, locking the door behind me. Didn't think so. The street was darker than it should have been for that time of evening. The sky still held a bit of gray-blue light, but Ashwick Row looked like it had dropped into night early. Curtains drawn tighter, windows reflecting nothing back. No movement anywhere. I kept my head down and walked. Fast. The path behind the houses felt different now. Closer. The hedges seemed tighter, the trees leaning in slightly like they'd shifted while I wasn't looking. The mud clung to my shoes more than before, dragging slightly like it didn't want to let go. You're imagining it? I said under my breath. But I didn't slow down. When the school came into view, my chest tightened again, not from fear exactly, but anticipation. It was lit, not fully, not like a normal building, but there were lights now, faint, flickering, behind some of the windows. The kind of light you get from old fluorescents struggling to stay on. That hadn't been there before. I stopped at the gate. The chain was still there, still looped through, still locked. But the tie, it was gone. I stared at the empty space where it had been. Right, I whispered, so things move. The bell rang, not above me this time. Inside, deeper, like it was echoing through corridors. The chain rattled. I jumped back instinctively, then stopped because it wasn't being touched. It was reacting. A slow vibration running through it, like something on the other side had just moved past. I swallowed hard. Don't overthink it, I muttered. Just get in. I moved along the fence, following it until I found a section where the metal had bent outward slightly. It wasn't much, but it was enough. I squeezed through. The moment my feet touched the school grounds properly, the headache vanished. Completely. Gone. Like it had never been there. I stood still for a second, letting that sink in. That's not right, I whispered. No, it wasn't. Because it felt too good, too clear, like something had just clicked into place. I looked up at the building. The front doors were slightly ajar. I was sure they'd been shut before. Of course they are, I said quietly. I stepped forward. The gravel crunched under my feet, louder than it should have been, each step echoing slightly, even in the open air. Halfway across the grounds, I stopped. There was a sound. Behind me, I turned. Nothing. Just the fence, the path, the trees, but something felt off, like I wasn't alone anymore. I turned back toward the school and kept moving. Don't stop, I muttered. Just don't stop. The doors creaked as I pushed them open. The smell hit me immediately. Dust, damp, and something else underneath. Metallic, old, like dried blood. I swallowed and stepped inside. The main hallway stretched out ahead of me, and I froze, because I recognized it perfectly. The layout. The way the floor tiles changed color halfway down, the notice boards on the left, the double doors to the assembly hall on the right. I knew it, every inch of it. But at the same time, I didn't, because the details were wrong. The notice boards were empty. The tiles were cracked. The doors hung slightly off their hinges. It was like remembering something through a dream, familiar but broken. "You've been here," I whispered. The words felt hollow, like I was repeating something I'd been told, not something I actually believed. I lifted the torch and flicked it on. The beam cut through the dim light, shaking slightly in my hand. "All right," I said. "Think. If this place was doing something, if it was showing things, pulling people in, whatever, then there had to be a pattern, rules, something I could understand, something I could use." I took a step forward. The floor creaked, and then a sound. From down the corridor, a door slamming, hard. I flinched, the torch beam jerking wildly across the walls. "Hello," I called, my voice echoing too loudly. No answer. Of course. I took another step, then another, slowly moving deeper into the building. The air grew colder the further in I went. Not just cold, heavy, like the space itself didn't want to be disturbed. Halfway down the corridor, I stopped again. There was something on the floor, near the wall. I angled the torch down. A shoe, a school shoe, small, polished, clean, just sitting there. No other clothes, no bag, no sign of who it belonged to. I crouched slightly, keeping my distance. "That wasn't here before," I whispered. Of course it wasn't, because nothing stayed the same here. I stood up slowly, backing away from it. "Right," I said quietly. "So we've got movement. Objects changing, voices, people, maybe people." A laugh echoed down the corridor. High, sharp, childlike. I spun around, the torch beam snapping toward the sound. Nothing. But the laugh came again, further down, drawing me in. "Don't," I muttered. "Don't follow it." My feet moved anyway. Step by step, I followed the sound, past the assembly hall doors, past the old lockers, until the corridor split. Left, right. I stopped at the junction. The laugh faded, replaced by something else. Breathing, heavy, slow, coming from the left, and from the right. Silence, complete, total. I stood there, heart hammering. "Pick one," I whispered. The left felt wrong, the right felt worse. I swallowed, then stepped left. The breathing grew louder immediately, closer. The air thickened, the torchlight dimming slightly like it was being swallowed. "Brilliant," I muttered. "Absolutely brilliant." I moved forward, every step slower than the last. Then I saw it, at the end of the corridor. A shape, tall, broad, standing in the shadows, not moving. Just there. I froze. "Hello?" I called, my voice barely working now. No answer. The torch flickered once, twice, then steadied. The shape shifted, just slightly. Enough for me to see a face, but not properly. Covered, masked. Something bright, something wrong. My stomach dropped. "Right," I whispered. "That's not good." The figure took a step forward, slow, deliberate, and I felt it, that same instinct from before. The one that said, "Run, now." I didn't argue. I turned and ran back the way I came, the sound of my own footsteps echoing off the walls. Behind me, another step, then another, faster now, matching my pace. I didn't look back, didn't slow down. I hit the junction again, didn't hesitate this time. I went right. The silence swallowed me immediately. No breathing, no footsteps, nothing. I staggered to a stop, turning slightly, listening. The corridor behind me, empty, no sound, no movement, like nothing had followed me at all. I leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "Right?" I gasped. "Right? Okay." That was a mistake. The thought came instantly, clear, cold. The left side, something was there, something active, something hunting. The right side, nothing. And somehow that felt worse. I pushed myself upright slowly, gripping the torch tighter. "All right," I whispered. "We're not just wandering anymore." Because now I understood something. This place wasn't random. It wasn't chaos. It was structured, divided, sections, zones, and whatever was in them stayed there until you crossed into its space. I looked down the silent corridor ahead of me, then back toward the junction. "Fine," I said quietly. "If you've got rules." My voice shook slightly, but I kept going. "Then I can learn them." And for the first time since I'd stepped inside, the fear shifted. Not gone, never gone, but sharpened, focused. Because now, I wasn't just trying to survive, I was trying to understand. And something in the building, something deep, buried, watching, seemed to notice that. Because far above me, the bell rang again, not once, but 3 times, like it was marking the start of something new. The bell echoed through the building long after it stopped, not just in the air, in my head. 3 clean rings. too deliberate to be random. I stood in that silent corridor, the torch trembling slightly in my grip, trying to ignore the way my pulse had quickened. Start of what? I muttered under my breath. No answer. Of course, I pushed myself away from the wall and started moving again, slower now, more careful. The idea of zones wasn't just a guess anymore. It felt right. The left corridor had something in it, something that moved, something that followed. The right? Nothing. And somehow, that emptiness pressed harder against me than anything else so far. I swept the torch along the walls as I walked. Old posters hung crooked, corners curled inward, slogans half peeled away. Respect each other, strive for excellence, words that meant nothing here now. Then I noticed something else. Doors. Every classroom door along the right-hand corridor was shut, and not just shut, sealed. I stepped closer to the nearest one and reached out. The moment my fingers brushed the handle, I felt it. Resistance. Not physical, something else, like trying to push through a strong current underwater. I pressed harder. Nothing. The handle didn't move, didn't even rattle. Right, I whispered. So not everything opens. That fit, rules, boundaries. I pulled my hand back slowly, wiping it against my coat without realizing I was doing it. Stick to the open spaces, I muttered. The corridor ended in a set of double doors. One of them hung slightly ajar. I hesitated, then pushed it open. The room beyond was larger than I expected. An office, or what used to be one. Desks lined the walls, most of them stripped bare, drawers hanging open. Filing cabinets stood half emptied, their contents either removed or scattered across the floor in yellowed sheets. The air inside felt different. Still cold, still wrong, but quieter, less hostile. I stepped inside slowly, closing the door behind me without thinking. The torch beam moved across the room, catching dust motes in the air. Then, a voice. Don't. I froze. It came from the far side of the room. Low, sharp, controlled. Not like the others. Not echoing. Not distorted. Real. I turned the torch toward it. A figure stepped out from behind one of the cabinets. A woman. Late 20s, maybe early 30s. Dark hair tied back messily, like strands falling loose around her face. She wore a heavy coat, scuffed boots, and held something in her hand. A knife. Not a kitchen knife. Something heavier. Sharper. Don't move, she said. I didn't. Not because I wanted to. Because I didn't trust myself to. I'm not. I started, raising my free hand slightly. Stop, she snapped. Her grip tightened on the knife. Just stay where you are. Her voice wavered slightly at the end. Not fear. Not exactly. More like strain. Like she'd been holding it together for too long. All right, I said slowly. I'm not going anywhere. We stood there for a moment, both watching each other. The silence stretched. Then, you're new, she said. It wasn't a question. I nodded slightly. Yeah. Her eyes flicked over me quickly, assessing. You came in tonight? Yeah. You didn't scream, I frowned. What? Most people do, she said flatly. That didn't sit well. Most people? I repeated. She ignored the question. How long have you been here? In the building? I said. Not long. 10 minutes, maybe. Her expression tightened. No, she said. In Brackenmere. Couple of days. She let out a breath, almost like a laugh, but there was no humor in it. Right, she muttered. Of course. What's that supposed to mean? I asked. She stepped closer, the knife still held low but ready. It means you're early, she said. My chest tightened. Early for what? She studied me for a long second, then shook her head slightly. Doesn't matter, she said. You're here now. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting for the moment. I exhaled slowly, trying to keep my nerves in check. Look, I said, I'm not here to cause problems. Something's going on with this place, and I'm trying to figure out what. Her eyes flicked to the door, then back to me. You've seen them then, she said quietly. Them? Her jaw tightened. The ones that move, she said. The ones that don't belong. I swallowed. Yeah, I said. I've seen one. Only one, she asked. So far. She let out another breath. That won't last. A chill ran down my spine. Right, I said. Good to know. She lowered the knife slightly, though she didn't put it away. What did you see, she asked. A figure, I said, masked, at the end of a corridor. It didn't follow me when I left its area. Her eyes narrowed slightly. You figured that out already? Sort of, I said. Feels like each part of the building has its own thing. She nodded slowly. Yeah, she said, that's right. Relief flickered through me. Finally, something that made sense. All right, I said, so I'm not imagining that then. No, she said, you're not imagining any of it. The way she said it made my stomach drop. Great, I muttered. That's reassuring. She ignored that. What else have you seen? She asked. I hesitated. The voices, I said. In the house, the bell, a girl. Her expression changed slightly at that. Sharp, focused. What kind of girl? Pale, I said. School uniform, marks around her neck. She closed her eyes briefly. Blue? She asked. I frowned. What? Did she look off? She pressed. Like she wasn't fully there? Yeah, I said slowly. Yeah, she did. She nodded to herself. Blue, she repeated. That doesn't explain anything, I said. It does, she replied, just not yet. I ran a hand through my hair, frustration building again. Right, brilliant, another one who talks in riddles. I'm not talking in riddles, she snapped. I'm trying to figure out how much you've already triggered. Triggered? I repeated. She looked at me properly then. You've been here 2 days, she said. You've already seen one of them, heard the bell, and had a blue manifest follow you home. My chest tightened. Manifest? That girl, she said. She shouldn't have left the building. She didn't exactly ask permission, I muttered. Her expression didn't change. That's not how it works, she said. Well, it did, I shot back, because she was in my house. Silence fell between us. That's not good, she said quietly. No, I said. I gathered that. She paced slightly, running a hand over her face. All right, she muttered. All right, that means the boundary's weaker than I thought. The what? She stopped, looked at me, and for the first time, I saw it. Not just tension, not just exhaustion, fear, real, controlled fear. Who are you? I asked. She hesitated. Then, Beatrice, she said. Beatrice Shaw. Oliver Marsh, she nodded once. Right, she said. Oliver, you need to listen to me. Something in her tone made me straighten slightly. All right. This place, she gestured vaguely around us, it's not just abandoned, it's contained. Contained, I repeated. Yes. Contained what? Her grip tightened on the knife again. Whatever started here, she said. Whatever's still here. I swallowed. And what is that? She held my gaze. I don't know, she said. Not exactly. That didn't help. But I know this, she continued. Every time someone comes back, really comes back, it gets worse. My stomach dropped. Back, I repeated. Everyone keeps saying that. She didn't answer straight away. Instead, she studied my face. You don't remember, do you? She said quietly. Remember what? Her eyes softened slightly. Why you're here? I let out a hollow laugh. No, I said, I really don't. She nodded slowly. Yeah, she murmured. That tracks. Can you stop doing that? I snapped. Stop acting like you know something I don't. Her gaze snapped back to mine. I do know something you don't, she said sharply. That's why I'm still alive. That shut me up. Silence settled again. Then, a sound. From outside the room, footsteps, heavy, slow, deliberate. Beatrice's head snapped toward the door. Someone else is here, I whispered. No, she said quietly. Not someone. The footsteps stopped, right outside. The handle twitched, once, twice. Beatrice moved instantly, grabbing my arm and pulling me down behind one of the desks. Don't move, she hissed. I didn't argue. The door creaked open, slowly. The footsteps resumed. Inside the room now. I held my breath. The air felt thicker, colder. Something passed by the desk, close enough that I could hear, breathing, not human, too slow, too steady. I glanced at Beatrice. She was completely still, eyes fixed on the floor, grip tight on the knife. The thing stopped right in the middle of the room. The silence stretched. Then it turned toward us. I felt it before I saw it. That same instinct from before, that same warning. Don't look, don't move, don't breathe. The torch flickered slightly in my hand, just once. But it was enough. The thing moved, fast, too fast. Beatrice's hand clamped down on my arm harder. Don't, she whispered. The footsteps circled, closer. Then they stopped, right behind us. I could feel it there, standing over us, watching. The cold pressed in harder like the air itself was tightening. Then a sound, soft, almost curious, like something trying to understand what it was looking at. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself not to move, not to react. Seconds passed, or minutes, I couldn't tell. Then the footsteps moved away, slow, deliberate, back toward the door. The room seemed to exhale as it left. The door creaked shut behind it. Silence returned, real silence. Beatrice didn't move straight away. Neither did I. We stayed there, crouched behind that desk, breathing shallow, listening for anything. Finally, she let go of my arm. That, she whispered, is why you don't wander. I swallowed hard. What was that? Her expression tightened. One of them, she said. That doesn't help. It's not supposed to. I let out a shaky breath. Right, I muttered. Okay, okay. I looked at her, at the knife in her hand, at the way she was already glancing toward the door again. You've been here a while, haven't you? I said. She nodded once. Long enough? Then you know what this place is. She hesitated, then shook her head slightly. No, she said, but I know one thing. What? Her gaze locked onto mine. It doesn't let people go, she said. The words settled heavy in the room, and for the first time since I'd stepped inside, I realized something that made my chest tighten all over again. I hadn't just come back to Brackenmere. I'd walked into something that had already decided I wasn't leaving. We didn't move straight away. Even after the footsteps faded completely, even after the door stopped creaking and the air settled back into that heavy, dead stillness, neither of us stood up. It was like we were both waiting for something to change again, for it to come back, for the floor to shift, or the lights to flicker, or the walls to start breathing like that diary she'd mentioned. Though I hadn't seen that yet, I could feel how easily this place could twist into something worse. Beatrice was the first to move, slowly, carefully. She lifted her head just enough to look over the desk, then exhaled quietly. Clear, she whispered. I followed a second later, pushing myself up, legs stiff, heart still hammering harder than it should have been. That thing, I started. She cut me off with a look. Don't say it like that, she said. Like it's one thing, it isn't. I frowned. You said one of them. Exactly. That didn't help. I rubbed my face, trying to steady myself. Right, I muttered. Brilliant. Beatrice was already moving again, heading deeper into the office toward a smaller door at the back. Come on, she said quietly. We don't have long. For what? She didn't answer. Of course she didn't. I followed anyway. The smaller room beyond was darker, tighter, a proper office space, maybe the head teacher's room once. A large desk sat in the middle, its surface mostly clear except for dust and faint outlines where objects had once been. Shelves lined the walls, mostly empty, but not completely. Here, Beatrice said, moving straight to a set of filing cabinets in the corner. She yanked one open. It screeched loudly in the silence. I flinched instinctively. Subtle, I muttered. She ignored me, rifling through the contents, or what was left of them. Look at this, she said, stepping aside. I moved closer, angling the torch down. Folders. Dozens of them, all neatly labeled, all empty. I picked one up. The paper was old, brittle at the edges. The name typed across the front, Elsie Rowe. I opened it. Nothing inside, not even a scrap. Just the imprint of where papers had once been. I swallowed. All right, I said slowly. That's not good. Beatrice gave a short, humorless laugh. That's what I said. I grabbed another. Thomas Bell, empty. Another. Prienaire, empty. Another. Frederick Shaw. I paused. Shaw? I said, glancing at her. Her expression didn't change, but her hand tightened slightly on the edge of the cabinet. My brother, she said quietly. I looked back at the file, opened it. Empty. Something twisted in my chest. Sorry, I muttered. She shook her head slightly. Doesn't matter, she said. It's all the same. I frowned, pulling another file at random, then froze, because the name on it was mine. Oliver Marsh. My hand went cold. That's not, I whispered. I opened it, empty. Completely, just like the others. I stared at it, my mind scrambling to catch up. How is that even here? I said. I only just got back. You didn't, Beatrice said quietly. I looked at her. What? You didn't just get back, she repeated. Not really. That doesn't make any sense. It does here. I let out a breath, shaking my head. No, it doesn't. There's a file with my name on it in a school I apparently never went to, and it's empty like all the others. That's not making sense. That's expected, she said. The word hit harder than it should have. Expected? I repeated. She nodded toward the cabinet. All of these, she said. They're not just records, they're placeholders. For what? For people who were here, she said, or are going to be. My stomach dropped. That's not funny. I'm not joking. I looked back at the file in my hands, at my name, at the empty space inside it. What's it supposed to mean? I asked. Beatrice hesitated. Then, I think it means you're part of this, she said. The room felt smaller suddenly. That's not possible. You keep saying that, she replied, and it keeps being wrong. I didn't have an answer to that, because deep down, something in me was starting to agree. I set the file back into the cabinet slowly. All right, I said. Let's say you're right. Let's say this place is tracking people or whatever. Why are the files empty? She moved past me, opening another drawer. Because someone took what was inside, she said. Who? She glanced at me. Good question. I swallowed. You think someone's been here before us? I know they have, she said. How? She gestured around the room. Look at it, she said. This isn't decay. This is cleaned. I frowned, looking properly this time. She was right. The dust wasn't thick enough. The surfaces weren't covered. The cabinets weren't rusted shut. This wasn't a place that had been left untouched. It was a place that had been emptied. Why take the records, I asked. Same reason you hide anything, she said, because you don't want people to see it. That doesn't explain why they left the names. No, she agreed. It doesn't. We stood there in silence for a moment, both thinking. Then something else clicked. Wait, I said. She looked at me. The names, I continued. You said your brother, Frederick Shaw. He's one of these. She nodded. And the others? I don't know all of them, she said, but some, yeah, missing kids, different years. Different years? I repeated. Yeah, I felt that twist in my chest again. Then why are they all here? I asked. At the same time. She didn't answer straight away, because she didn't need to. We both knew. Because this place doesn't follow time properly, I said quietly. She gave a small nod. Yeah, she said. That's what I think too. I looked back at the files, at the empty spaces, and at the names lined up neatly like nothing had happened to them. And my name's just there, I said. Yeah. Even though I wasn't here. Yeah, I let out a breath. Right, I muttered. That's great. Beatrice moved to the desk, pulling open one of the drawers. Come here, she said. I stepped over. Inside the drawer, keys, a whole ring of them, dozens. Different shapes, sizes, labels half worn away. I picked it up. That's a lot of keys, I said. Most of them won't work, she said. But one might. For what? She looked at me. For whatever they didn't want us to find. My grip tightened slightly. You think there's more than this? There's always more, she said. A sound. From the corridor. Not footsteps this time. Something else. A dragging noise. Slow. Like something being pulled across the floor. We both froze. The sound got closer. Beatrice's hand moved back to the knife instantly. Stay quiet, she whispered. I nodded. The dragging stopped. Right outside the office. The door creaked slightly. Just a fraction. Then a voice. Soft, broken. Freddie? Beatrice went still. Completely still. I glanced at her. Her face had gone pale. That's, she whispered. The voice came again. Freddie, where are you? My chest tightened. That's I started. She shook her head sharply. No, she whispered. It's not. The voice sounded exactly like a child. Lost, frightened. But something about it, something was off. Freddie, I can hear you. The handle moved, slowly. Beatrice grabbed my arm, pulling me back again. Don't answer, she mouthed. I nodded. The door opened slightly, just enough for something to peek through. I couldn't see it properly. Just a shape, too small, too still. Watching. Freddie? The voice cracked slightly, almost convincing, almost. Beatrice's grip tightened painfully on my arm. Don't, she whispered again. The thing waited, silent now, as if expecting a response. Then it smiled, not wide, not exaggerated, just enough. And something about that smile, something about the way it didn't quite reach where a face should move, made my stomach turn. The door closed. Slowly, the dragging sound resumed, moving away, fading, until it was gone. We stayed frozen for a long time after that. Then Beatrice let go of my arm. That's how it gets you, she said quietly. I swallowed. By pretending? By knowing what you want to hear. I nodded slowly. That was your brother's name, I said. Yeah, and it knew that. Yeah, I looked back at the cabinet, at the file with his name on it. Empty. And suddenly that felt worse than anything we'd seen so far. Because whatever was in this place, it didn't just trap people, it remembered them. And it used that memory to pull others in. We didn't speak for a while after that. There wasn't much to say. Whatever had been outside the office, whatever had known Beatrice's brother's name, hadn't just been guessing. It had been trying, testing, pushing. And if that was what it did with voices, I didn't want to know what else it could use. Beatrice moved first, stepping away from the door and running a hand through her hair. We can't stay here, she said quietly. Agreed, I replied, my voice still a bit tight. She glanced at the keyring in my hand. Take those, she added, we might need them. I nodded, slipping them into my coat pocket. They felt heavier than they should have. Where next? I asked. She hesitated. Then the canteen, I frowned. Why there? Because it's the only place I've seen that someone tried to hold. she said. That didn't sound reassuring. Hold what? I asked. She didn't answer straight away. Come on, she said instead, moving toward the door. I followed. The corridor outside felt colder now. Or maybe it was just me. Either way, I stayed close. Too close probably, but I didn't care. The further we moved from the office, the more the building seemed to press in again. The faint hum of electricity flickered somewhere above us, lights buzzing weakly, casting uneven shadows across the walls. Stay out of the left corridor, I muttered. Beatrice glanced at me. You've already mapped that? Sort of, I said. Something's down there, doesn't cross the junction. She nodded slightly. Yeah, she said. That's how it works. How many of them are there? I asked. She didn't answer, which at this point was an answer in itself. We reached a wider section of the hallway, double doors ahead, one slightly open. Beatrice slowed. Canteen, she said. Right. I stepped forward, pushing the door wider. It didn't move easily. Something scraped on the other side. Hold on, I muttered, shifting my shoulder against it. The sound came again. Tables. Dragging across the floor, I pushed harder. The gap widened just enough for us to squeeze through. Then I stopped, because the room beyond didn't look right. The canteen had been rearranged, not casually, not randomly, deliberately. Tables were stacked and angled into rough barricades across sets of doors, chairs wedged underneath, legs snapped off and jammed into place like makeshift braces. It wasn't messy, it was defensive, like someone had tried to keep something out, or in. Bloody hell, I whispered. Beatrice stepped in behind me, scanning the room. Yeah, she murmured. That's new. New? I repeated. You've been here before, and this wasn't. It wasn't like this, she said. That didn't make me feel better. I stepped further inside, sweeping the torch across the room. Trays lay scattered across the floor, old food containers, dried stains that I didn't look at too closely. And in the center, one table, upright, unlike the others, clear, as if someone had been using it. There, Beatrice said, nodding toward it. I moved closer. There was something on the table, a book, plain, white cover, no title, no markings. I picked it up slowly. It felt wrong, not physically, just off. Careful, Beatrice said. I am. I opened it, every page blank. I flipped through faster. Nothing, just empty paper. That's it, I said. Someone barricaded themselves in here for a blank notebook? Beatrice frowned slightly. Let me see. I handed it to her. She turned a few pages, then stopped. What? I asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she angled the book slightly toward the light. I stepped closer. At first, I didn't see anything. Then, faint, barely visible, lines, words, pressed into the paper like they'd been written before, and then removed. What the? I muttered. Beatrice's jaw tightened. It's been wiped, she said. Wiped or hidden, she corrected. I frowned. Why leave it here at all, then? Same reason as the files, she said. Someone wanted us to find it, but not easily. I shook my head. That doesn't make any sense. No, she said quietly. It doesn't. A sound echoed from the far side of the room, sharp, sudden, glass hitting tile. We both turned. At the far end of the canteen, a door, slightly open, dark inside. Did you hear that? I whispered. Yes, Beatrice said. Another sound, this time closer. Something rolling across the floor, a glass beaker. It stopped a few feet away from us, perfectly intact. I stared at it. Right, I muttered. That's... The beaker shattered, on its own, no impact, no movement, just cracked and exploded outward. I flinched back instinctively. What the hell? Another one came flying out of the doorway. This one didn't stop. It hit the floor near my feet and burst apart. I jumped back, heart racing. Get down! Beatrice snapped. Too late. Something hit my leg, hard. I gasped, dropping to one knee as a sharp pain shot through my calf. Glass, shards embedded in the fabric. Move, she shouted. Another beaker flew past my head, smashing against the wall behind us. I scrambled up, ignoring the pain, grabbing the table for support. What is that? I shouted. Science wing spillover, she snapped. Run! Another glass object formed, not thrown, formed, right in midair. I saw it happen, clear liquid taking shape, solidifying, then launching toward us. Move! Beatrice yelled again. I didn't argue. We ran, straight for the door. More glass flew past us, smashing into the floor, the walls, the tables. One clipped my shoulder, sending another jolt of pain through my body. Keep going, she shouted. I hit the door first, shoving it open with my shoulder. We stumbled back into the corridor, both of us breathing hard. The moment we crossed the threshold, it stopped. No more glass, no more movement, silence. I leaned against the wall that's clutching my leg, Right, I gasped. That's new. Beatrice glanced back at the door. She doesn't leave that room, she said. She? She nodded. Teacher, she added. Or was. I swallowed. That's comforting. She ignored that, crouching slightly to look at my leg. You're bleeding, she said. Yeah, I noticed. Can you walk? I tested it. Pain shot up my leg, but it held. Yeah, I said. Not well, but yeah. She stood up again, her expression tight. That's another zone, she said. Science wing? Yeah, I nodded slowly. Right. So assembly hall, left corridor, that room. And more, she added. I let out a breath. Brilliant. Whole place is a bloody map of things trying to kill us. She didn't disagree. I glanced back at the canteen door, at the barricade inside. Someone tried to stay there, I said. Yeah. They didn't make it. No, she said quietly. I looked down at my hands, at the small cuts from earlier, the new blood on my sleeve. This place doesn't just trap people, I said. It hunts them. Beatrice didn't reply. She didn't need to, because we both knew that was exactly what it was doing. We should have left then. That's the part I keep coming back to. We had enough. More than enough. Proof that the place wasn't empty. Proof that it wasn't safe. Proof that whatever was inside Brackenmere didn't just sit still and wait. It reacted. It learned. It adapted. We should have taken that and gone, but we didn't. Because once you start understanding something like that, you want to understand more. And that's where it gets you. Beatrice leaned back against the wall, glancing between the canteen door and the corridor we'd come from. We need to move, she said quietly. Yeah, I replied, though I didn't move straight away. My eyes were still on the door, on that barricade, on the blank book I'd left behind. That wasn't random, I added. No, she said. None of it is. I nodded slowly. She didn't cross the doorway, I said. Same as the one in the corridor. Same as whatever was in the office. Zones, Beatrice said again. Yeah. I pushed myself upright properly, testing my leg again. It still hurt, but the adrenaline was doing its job for now. All right, I muttered. So if we stay out of their spaces. You don't, she cut in. I frowned. What? You don't stay out of their spaces, she said. You stay out of their attention. That didn't make sense. They already know we're here, I said. She shook her head. Not all of them, she said. Before I could ask what that meant, a scream cut through the building. Not faint, not distant, close, too close. Beatrice's head snapped toward the sound. Up ahead, she said. Human? I asked. She didn't answer. Another scream. Higher this time. Panicked. Real. My chest tightened. That's someone, I said. Beatrice hesitated, just for a second. Then, move, she said. We ran, down the corridor, past the junction, toward the sound. The building seemed to shift around us as we moved, shadows stretching longer, lights flickering harder, like it was reacting to our pace. The scream cut off abruptly, replaced by something worse. A heavy thud. Then silence. We rounded the corner and stopped. A hallway, wider than the others. Lockers lining both sides. At the far end, a boy, mid-teens, school uniform, standing perfectly still, glowing, not brightly, not like a light source, but outlined, a faint, unnatural orange. What the? I whispered. Beatrice grabbed my arm. Don't rush him, she said. Why not? Because that means it's already started. I frowned. Started what? Before she could answer, the boy moved, just slightly, like he was being pulled, not walking, dragged, backward, towards something behind him, something we couldn't see yet. Hey! I shouted. Stop! Beatrice swore under her breath. You just made it worse. The air shifted. The temperature dropped. Fast. The boy jerked. Hard. Like something had grabbed him properly now. Then it stepped into view from the shadows behind him. Tall. Broad. Wearing what looked like a coach's jacket. Torn. Shredded at the back. Something dark and wet clinging to the fabric. My stomach dropped. Oh no, I whispered. The thing didn't look at us. Not at first. Its attention was on the boy. It grabbed him, easily, one hand around his collar, lifting him like he weighed nothing. The boy struggled, kicking, silent, no scream, just that glowing outline flickering wildly. What do we do? I whispered. Beatrice didn't answer, because we both knew there was only one option, and it was a terrible one. I'm not just watching that, I said. Then you're making it worse, she snapped. Maybe, I shot back, but I'm not standing here while... The thing slammed the boy into the lockers, hard. Metal buckled. The sound echoed down the hallway. The boy's outline flickered violently, like it was breaking. That was enough. I moved. Beatrice swore behind me. Oliver, don't! Too late. I ran forward, closing the distance faster than I thought I would. The thing turned, slowly. Its face, I didn't see it properly. Something about it didn't want to be seen. Like my eyes slid off at the moment I tried to focus. But I felt it, that weight, that presence, watching me. "You don't get him," I said, my voice shaking. Brilliant, really intimidating. The thing didn't respond. It just tilted its head, like it was considering me. Then it dropped the boy. Not gently. He hit the floor hard, the glow around him dimming slightly. And the thing stepped toward me. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I didn't, because I'd already committed. And somehow, that mattered. I reached down and grabbed the boy's arm. My hand passed through him at first, cold, like plunging into ice water. "Come on," I muttered. "Come on." I pushed harder, and something gave. The resistance snapped. The boy jerked forward, out of whatever space he'd been stuck in, his body solidifying under my grip, the glow flickering, then stabilizing. He gasped, actually gasped, alive. "What?" he choked. "Run," I snapped. Behind us, the thing moved fast. Beatrice grabbed the boy's other arm. "Move," she shouted. We ran, all three of us, back the way we'd come. The hallway seemed longer now, stretching, twisting, the lights flickering violently. Behind us, footsteps, heavy, fast, too fast. "It's following," I shouted. "It shouldn't be," Beatrice snapped. "Well, it is." We hit the junction. I didn't hesitate. "Right," I yelled. We turned. The moment we crossed the invisible boundary, the footsteps stopped, dead. I glanced back. The thing stood at the edge of the hallway, watching. Not crossing, but not leaving either. "That's new," Beatrice muttered. "No kidding." The boy collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. "Well, what's happening?" he stammered. "No time," I said. "Just stay with us." Beatrice nodded. "We need to move," she said. "Now." "Why?" I asked. She looked at me. "Because you just changed something." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Because the building did. The lights flickered once, twice. Then they all came on, every single one, bright, blinding. For the first time since we'd entered, the school was fully lit. I squinted, raising a hand to shield my eyes. What the hell? A sound echoed through the building. Not the bell, something else. A low, deep hum, like machinery, like something waking up. The boy looked up, panic flooding his face. I was in class," he stammered. Then everything went wrong. "Not now," Beatrice said sharply, "but I was already thinking." "Orange," I muttered. She glanced at me. "What?" "His glow," I said. "It was orange." Her expression tightened. "Yeah, and the girl," I continued. "The one in my house, she was blue." Beatrice nodded slowly. "Yeah, and the one in the canteen?" "Different," she said. I swallowed. "So what does it mean?" She hesitated. "Then, I think it's how they died," she said. The words hit harder than anything else so far. I looked at the boy, at the faint outline still flickering around him. "You were," I started. He shook his head rapidly. "I don't remember," he said. I was there." And then the hum grew louder. The walls vibrated slightly, and somewhere in the building, a door slammed, then another, rapid, sequential, like something was locking us in. Beatrice grabbed my arm. "We need to go," she said. "Where?" "Anywhere but here," I nodded. "Right?" We moved, fast, the boy stumbling between us. And as we ran, I realized something I should have realized earlier. Saving him hadn't made things better. It had made everything worse, because now the school wasn't just watching us, it was reacting. And whatever we just done, it didn't like it, not one bit. We didn't stop running until we were back at the front doors. The moment we burst out onto the grounds, the air changed again. Lighter, easier to breathe. But it didn't feel like safety. It felt like we just stepped out of something that was still very much awake behind us. The boy, he'd said his name was Daniel, though he kept stumbling over it like he wasn't entirely sure, collapsed against the low stone wall near the entrance. "I don't understand," he kept saying. I was just in school." Beatrice didn't answer him. She was staring back at the building, at the lit windows, at the way shadows moved behind some of them, even though we were now outside. "That's not normal," I said quietly. "No," she replied. "It isn't." The lights hadn't been on before we went in. Now they were everywhere, flickering, shifting, like something had been switched on all at once, or woken up. I swallowed. "That was because of him, wasn't it?" I said, nodding toward Daniel. "Not just him," she said. "Because of what you did." "That was helping," I snapped. "That was interfering," she corrected. I let out a breath, running a hand through my hair. "Right. So we're just supposed to leave them in there?" Her silence was answer enough. I looked back at the building, at the windows, at the faint shapes moving behind them, and for a moment, I almost went back. But then the headache flickered again. Not pain, just a reminder. And I stopped. "We can't stay here," Beatrice said. "I know." She glanced toward the edge of the grounds. "Come on." "Where?" She nodded toward the fence. "Somewhere it can't see us as easily." I frowned. "It sees us out here?" "It sees everything," she said. That didn't help, but I followed anyway. We moved along the side of the building, keeping low, sticking close to the hedge line until we reached the same section of fence I'd squeezed through earlier. Daniel struggled to follow, still unsteady, still trying to process whatever had happened to him. "Keep moving," I said, helping him through. I don't know where I am," he said. "You're not the only one," I muttered. We slipped back onto the path behind the houses. The moment we crossed that boundary, the lights in the school flickered. And then, half of them went out, just like that. I stopped, turned. What? The building looked darker again, not fully, but less active, like it had lost sight of us. Beatrice noticed too. "See?" She said quietly. "Out here, it's weaker." I nodded slowly. "Right." We moved further down the path, away from the school, until the building was partially hidden behind the trees. Only then did we stop. Daniel leaned heavily against the stone wall, breathing hard. "What was that?" he asked again. Beatrice looked at me. I looked at her. Neither of us answered, because we didn't have one. Not a real one. "Something's wrong with the school," I said finally. He stared at me. "That's not an answer." "No," I said. "It's not." Silence settled again. I remembered something. The man, the groundskeeper, the patch of nettles. I looked back toward the school, then toward the edge of the grounds. "He said something was buried," I muttered. Beatrice frowned. "Who?" "The man outside," I said. "He was digging in the same spot, over and over." Her expression changed slightly. "Where?" I pointed. "There, just past the fence." She followed my gaze, then nodded once. "All right," she said. "We check it." Daniel looked between us. "You're not serious." I met his eyes. "Do you have a better idea?" He didn't. We moved back toward the fence, slower this time, more careful. The school loomed behind us, quieter now, but not silent, never silent. I squeezed back through the gap in the metal, Beatrice following, then Daniel. The moment we stepped onto the grounds again, the headache returned, sharp, immediate. I winced, grabbing the fence for a second. "Still hates me," I muttered. "Good," Beatrice said. "Means it's still reacting." That's not reassuring. We moved toward the patch of nettles. It was exactly where I remembered. Same spot, same disturbed soil, but the man was gone. No sign of him, no tools, nothing. "Convenient," I muttered. Beatrice crouched beside the patch, brushing aside some of the nettles carefully. "The ground's been turned recently," she said. "Yeah," I replied. "He kept digging it." "Why?" "Didn't say." Daniel shifted uneasily behind us. "I don't like this," he said. "Join the club," I muttered. Beatrice started pulling at the soil with her hands. I hesitated, then crouched beside her. "All right," I said. "Let's see what's so important." The dirt was loose, too loose, like it had been disturbed again after I'd last seen it. We dug quickly, hands scraping through damp earth, pulling roots aside, ignoring the cold. After a few seconds, my fingers hit something. Solid. I froze. "Got something," I said. Beatrice leaned in. "What is it?" I brushed away more dirt. Fabric, bright, wrong against the dark soil. I pulled it free. A small book. Hot pink, out of place in every possible way. "What the hell?" I whispered. Beatrice took it from me carefully. "It's a diary," she said. Daniel frowned. "You dug that up?" "Apparently," I said. She flipped it open. The pages were worn, edges frayed, but the writing inside, clear, neat, deliberate. Beatrice scanned the first page. Her expression tightened. "What?" I asked. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she handed it to me. "Read." I looked down. The first page wasn't dated. The top had been scratched out, hard enough to tear the paper slightly. But the writing beneath, still readable. "Something is wrong with the school." I swallowed. "They keep leaving. Teachers, I mean. One day they're here, the next they're gone. But then they come back, and no one talks about it. Not properly." I glanced at Beatrice. "Who wrote this?" She shook her head slightly. "Keep reading." I turned the page. "Miss Carter quit again today. That's the 4th time this term. She came back after lunch like nothing happened. She threw a ruler at Callum, and no one said anything. It's like they don't see it." My chest tightened. Another page. I followed Mr. Pritchard after school. He was watching Ellie all day, just standing in the corridor, not moving. I thought he was waiting for someone, but he wasn't. I stopped. Pritchard? I said. Beatrice nodded slowly. The man outside, she said. I looked back at the page. He went into the basement. I wasn't supposed to follow, but I did. The walls, they weren't right. They moved, like they were breathing. I left. I couldn't stay. A chill ran down my spine. Daniel shifted behind me. This is messed up, he said. I turned another page. Kira said she heard the bell when there wasn't one. I hear it too now. It's not a sound. It's like it's inside your head. I froze. The bell, I looked at Beatrice. She looked back at me. Neither of us said anything. I kept reading. If anyone finds this, don't go into the basement. That's where it started. That's where it keeps them. My grip tightened on the book. Started what? I whispered. Beatrice took the diary back, flipping through more pages quickly. There's more, she said. A lot more. Like what? She hesitated. Then, she knew people, she said. Names, students, some of them. She stopped. What? I pressed. Her expression shifted, subtle, but enough. She knew one of yours, she said. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? Beatrice looked up at me. She wrote about a girl named Imogen Vale. The name hit me like a punch. The girl in my house, the one with the bruised neck. I felt my chest tighten. She was real? I said. Beatrice nodded slowly. She was a student here, she said. And according to this, she flipped to another page. She died here. The world seemed to tilt slightly. I looked back at the school, at the windows, at the darkness behind them, and suddenly, everything felt heavier, more real. Because this wasn't just something happening now. It had been happening for a long time, years, maybe longer. And whatever was in that basement, whatever had started it, was still there, waiting. I exhaled slowly. All right, I said. Beatrice looked at me. I met her gaze. We're going down there, I said. Daniel shook his head immediately. No, we are not doing that. I didn't take my eyes off Beatrice. That's where it started, I said. She hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, she said. And if we're going to stop it, we need to know what it is, she finished. I swallowed. The headache pulsed faintly again. Not pain, just approval. I looked back at the school one more time, at the dark windows, at the place that had already started changing things. Then I tightened my grip on the diary. Right, I muttered. Let's go find the heart of it. We didn't go straight back in. Not immediately. That was the strange part. Standing there, just outside the fence, holding that diary, all three of us knowing exactly what it meant, and still hesitating. Like something in us understood what the basement actually meant. Not just a place, a point of no return. Daniel was the first to speak. No, he said, shaking his head. No, I'm not going down there. Whatever this is, whatever you think you're going to find. People don't just write things like that unless it's bad, really bad. He wasn't wrong. I looked down at the diary again, flipping through a few more pages. The handwriting got messier the further it went, more rushed, more desperate. They're still pretending everything's normal. There was another one today. No one even reacted. It's like they're used to it, or they can't see it. Another page. I think it's choosing them, not random, not accidents. It's picking them. My throat tightened. Picking. That word stuck. I turned another page. Kira was next. I knew it. I told her not to stay after school. She laughed, said I was being paranoid. My grip on the diary tightened. I heard the bell again. No one else did. That means it started. I stopped. My chest felt tight again. That same pressure, but not from the headache, from something else. Recognition. That's not possible, I whispered. Beatrice glanced at me. What? I've heard that before, I said. That exact feeling. The bell, not being a sound, but something in your head. She didn't look surprised. Yeah, she said quietly. Same as me. I frowned. You too? She nodded. First time I came here, I thought it was tinnitus or something, she said. Then it got worse. I swallowed. Yeah, I muttered. That tracks. Daniel shifted beside us, clearly on edge. Can we not stand here reading this like it's a story? He snapped. We need to leave, properly leave. I looked at him. I tried, I said. What? I tried leaving, I repeated. The further I got from the school, the worse it got. Headaches, pressure, like something was pushing me back. His expression faltered. That's not. It is, Beatrice cut in. Same for me. Daniel looked between us. That's not possible. Yeah, I said quietly. That's getting old. Silence fell again. Then I flipped to another page and froze because the handwriting had changed. Same pen, same book, but different, shakier, more erratic. If you're reading this, you're already part of it. I felt my stomach drop. Beatrice, I said quietly. She leaned in. What? I pointed. She read it. Her expression tightened. Keep going, she said. I did. You think you came here on your own. You didn't. My chest tightened. You think you remember this place. You don't. I stopped breathing. It gives you just enough to believe you belong. My hand started to shake. No, I whispered. Beatrice looked at me sharply. What? This is wrong, I said. This isn't just about the school. This is... I flipped back through the pages, scanning faster now, looking for something, anything. Names, I muttered. There were names. What are you looking for? Beatrice asked. I don't know. Something that... Then I found it. A page halfway through, a list. Names written in neat columns. Some crossed out, some circled, some underlined. I scanned them quickly. Elsie Rowe, Thomas Bell, Priya Nair, Frederick Shaw, Daniel Carter. I froze. Slowly I turned the page toward him. That's you, isn't it? I said. He stared at it. His face went pale. He stammered. I think, yeah, that's my name. Think, I said. He shook his head. I don't remember properly, he said. It's like, I know it's right, but what? Beatrice pressed. But it doesn't feel like mine, he said. Silence, heavy, wrong. I looked back at the page. Then my eyes dropped lower, and my stomach dropped with them, because there, at the bottom of the list, was my name. Oliver Marsh, circled, not crossed out. Not underlined, circled. I stared at it. No, I whispered. Beatrice leaned in, then went still. That's, she started. Yeah, I see it. That doesn't make sense, Daniel said weakly. No, I replied. It doesn't. I flipped to the next page. More writing. Messier now. It doesn't just take people, it builds them. My breath caught. It needs them to believe they were always here. The world tilted. Because if they remember the truth, it can't hold them the same way. I staggered back slightly, the diary slipping in my grip. What does that mean? Daniel asked. I didn't answer because I already knew. Or at least I was starting to. I closed my eyes and tried to remember. School, Brackenmere Grammar, classrooms, teachers, friends, anything. And this time, instead of images, there were gaps. Huge, empty spaces where memories should have been. Blurry faces, voices I couldn't place, moments that didn't connect to anything real. I don't remember it, I said quietly. Beatrice looked at me. What? I don't remember the school, I repeated. Not properly. I thought I did, but I shook my head. It's like fragments, pieces that don't fit together. Daniel frowned. That's just stress. No, I snapped. It's not. Because it wasn't. I opened my eyes, looked at the building, at the place I'd been so sure I knew, and for the first time, it felt completely alien. I didn't go here, I said. Beatrice didn't argue. She just nodded slowly. Yeah, she said. I figured. I let out a hollow laugh. Figured? I repeated. You figured that I've been walking around thinking this was my school when it isn't? You're not the first, she said quietly. That stopped me cold. What? She hesitated. Then, my brother, she said. Freddie. My chest tightened. What about him? He used to say the same thing, she said. That he remembered being here, that it felt familiar. And, her expression darkened. He never went to Brackenmere, she said. Silence fell. Heavy, suffocating. Daniel looked between us, panic creeping into his voice. So what? What does that mean? He asked. Are we just, what, made up? No, I said quickly. No, that's not. But the words felt weak, because I didn't know what the truth was anymore. I looked back at the diary, at the words, at the list, at my name, circled. It's pulling us in, I said slowly. Beach nodded. Yeah, making us think we belong here. Yeah, so it can, what? Trap us or use us, she said. The word hung in the air. Use. For what? I didn't want to know. I really didn't. But I also knew we were going to find out, because the answer wasn't here. Not in the diary, not in the names, not in the broken memories. It was deeper, down where the diary said it started. I exhaled slowly. All right, I said. Beatrice looked at me. You're still going down there, she said. It wasn't a question, I nodded. Yeah. Daniel shook his head immediately. No, I'm not. You don't have to, I said. He blinked. What? You can stay out here, I said, if you want. He looked back at the school, at the dark windows, at the place that had already taken something from him, then back at me. And I saw it. That same thing I'd felt earlier. That pull, that pressure. He swallowed. I'm not staying out here alone, he said. I nodded. Fair enough. Beatrice stepped forward. Then we do it properly, she said. I looked at her. What does that mean? She met my gaze. It means once we go down there, she said, we don't assume we're coming back the same. My chest tightened. Right, I muttered. Good. I glanced at the diary one last time, at the warning, at the truth it had started to reveal. Then I closed it, tucked it under my arm, and turned back toward the school, because whether I liked it or not, it had already started changing me. And whatever was waiting in that basement was the reason why. We didn't speak as we went back in. There wasn't anything left to say that didn't feel pointless. The answers we needed weren't out here anymore. They were inside, below, waiting. The moment we stepped through the front doors again, the lights flickered. Not violently like before, just aware, like something had noticed us return. The headache came back too, not as sharp as before, but constant. A low, steady pressure behind my eyes. Not trying to stop me this time, just reminding me. You don't belong here, I muttered. The building disagreed. We moved quickly down the main corridor, past the places we'd already mapped. The assembly hall doors stayed shut. The left corridor remained silent, but I could feel it watching. The canteen, we didn't even look, because now we knew better. Stairs, Beatrice said quietly, pointing ahead. I nodded. We reached them without incident. That alone felt wrong. Too easy. I stepped onto the first stair. The air shifted immediately, colder, thicker. The hum we'd heard earlier returned, low, constant, coming from below. Basement, I said. Beatrice nodded. Daniel swallowed hard behind us. Still a bad idea, he muttered. Yeah, I replied, it is. We went down anyway. Each step felt heavier than the last, like the building was pressing down on us the deeper we went. The light above flickered once, then steadied, then went out completely. Darkness swallowed the stairwell. Daniel swore under his breath. Don't panic, Beatrice said sharply. I fumbled with the torch, flicking it on. The beam cut through the dark, shaking slightly in my hand. Right, I said. That's fine. The hum grew louder. Not just sound now, vibration. I could feel it in my chest, in my bones, like something below was alive. We reached the bottom. A corridor stretched out ahead, narrow, concrete walls, old pipes running along the ceiling. The air smelled wrong, damp, rotting, and something else, sweet, sickly. I swallowed hard. Keep moving, Beatrice said. We did, slowly, carefully. The torchlight barely reached the end of the corridor, but I could see something ahead, a door, metal, old, scratched. As we got closer, I noticed the marks, deep grooves across the surface, not random, repeated, like something had tried to claw its way out. Daniel stopped. I'm not going in there, he said. I didn't blame him. I didn't want to either. But the diary, the names, the memories that weren't mine, they all pointed here. This is it, I said quietly. Beatrice nodded. Yeah. I reached for the handle, paused. Once we opened this, I said, there's no pretending this is anything else. Wasn't much pretending left, she replied. Fair. I took a breath, then pulled the door open. The smell hit first, stronger now, thicker, like something had been rotting for a very long time. The torchlight swept into the room, and I froze, the walls covered, not with paint, not with posters, with photographs, hundreds of them, maybe more, pinned, taped, layered over each other, every surface, every inch, faces, children, teenagers, some smiling, some mid-laugh, not. Strings ran between them, red, green, tangled, crisscrossing the wall like a web, connecting faces to other faces, to points on the wall, to other photos, different ones, adults, teachers, staff. My stomach dropped. Oh my God, I whispered. Beatrice stepped forward slowly, her breath catching. This is Daniel didn't finish. He didn't need to. We moved closer, the torchlight flickering across the images. I recognized some of the names, from the files, from the diary. Elsie, Thomas, Priya, Freddie. Daniel stepped forward suddenly. That's me, he said. I followed his gaze. A photo, school portrait. Him, younger, pinned to the wall. A green string attached to it, leading across to another image, a teacher. I swallowed. Green, I muttered. Survivor, Beatrice said quietly. I looked at her. What? Green, she repeated. The ones who got out. My chest tightened. And red? She didn't answer, because I was already looking at another photo, a girl, Imogen, the one from my house. Her picture was marked with red, the string leading to a man, masked, or partially obscured. My stomach twisted. Those things, I said, the ones upstairs. The killers, Beatrice finished. The words settled heavy in the air. I turned slowly, scanning the wall. Every victim, every connection, mapped, cataloged. Like someone had studied it, documented it, understood it. This wasn't random, I whispered. No, Beatrice said, it never was. Daniel stepped back, This is insane, he said. This is someone's work. Someone did this. I nodded slowly. Yeah, I said. Then I saw it. The center of the wall. Different. Not layered. Not chaotic. Organized. 2 photos side by side. One, a girl. The same handwriting as the diary. Lydia Hurst, Beatrice read. The diary, I said. She nodded. And the other? I stepped closer. The torchlight settled on the second image. A man. Older. Not a teacher. Not a student. Something else. The name beneath. Noah. Just Noah. No surname. Nothing else. My chest tightened. Who is that? Daniel asked. I don't know, I said. But something about the photo felt wrong. Like looking at it too long would make something click into place. Something I didn't want. I tore my eyes away. That's not all, Beatrice said. I followed her gaze. Below the photos, papers. Stacks of them. Notes, diagrams, more writing. Someone had been here a long time, studying this, trying to understand it or control it. Take everything, I said. What? Daniel asked. We take it all, I repeated. This is answers. This is proof. Beatrice didn't argue. We moved quickly, stuffing papers into our bags, pulling photos free, breaking the strings. The wall shifted slightly as we did, subtle but real. Did you feel that? Daniel said. Yeah, I replied. The hum grew louder. The air thickened. Something changed. Move faster, Beatrice said. We did. Grabbing what we could, filling our hands, our pockets. Then it hit. Not physically. Not at first. A wave, cold, sharp, like something passing through me. I staggered. The room tilted. And suddenly I saw it. Not the basement, not the wall. Something else. A memory. Clear, sharp, real. A school bus. Not Brackenmere. A different place. A different uniform. Different faces. My chest tightened. That's not, I whispered. Another wave hit. Stronger. More memories. Football matches. A different school name. Teachers I recognized, but not from here. I never went here, I said. Beatrice grabbed my arm. Oliver. I never went here, I shouted. The truth hit like a punch, all at once. Clear. Undeniable. Everything I thought I remembered about Brackenmere was wrong, fabricated, planted. This place, I gasped. It made me think I did. Beatrice's face tightened. Yeah, she said, I know. Daniel looked between us, panic rising. What does that mean? He demanded. It means we were brought here, I said. For what? I looked at the wall, at the photos, at the strings, at the pattern. And the answer was already there. It needs people, I said. Beatrice nodded. Yeah, to replace the ones it takes. The hum spiked, louder, violent. The air in the room twisted, and something moved. Behind us, we turned, slowly, and saw her. The woman, black dress, hair tight, glasses cracked, standing in the doorway. Her head tilted, her eyes fixed on us. You shouldn't be here, she said. Her voice wasn't right, too layered, too many tones at once. Beatrice tightened her grip on the crowbar she'd taken earlier. Neither should you, she snapped. The woman smiled, slow, unnatural. Then she lifted her hand. The air snapped. I was thrown backward, hard, slamming into the wall. The torch clattered to the floor. Daniel screamed. Beatrice lunged forward and was lifted off her feet, held there by nothing. The woman stepped closer. You've taken what isn't yours, she said. My head spun, my vision blurred. I forced myself up. No, I gasped. We're taking it back. Her smile widened. That isn't how this works. Beatrice struggled against the invisible grip. Let me go, she shouted. The woman turned her head slightly, almost curious. Then she slammed Beatrice into the wall, hard. The sound echoed through the room. My chest tightened. Stop, I shouted. She didn't. She turned back to me. And this time, when she moved, I saw it. Not just her, but something behind her. Something larger, deeper, connected to the walls, to the room, to everything. You belong here, she said. The words hit harder than the force, because for a split second, something in me agreed. Then I remembered. The bus, the other school, my real life, and I pushed back. No, I said. Her expression flickered just for a moment, and in that moment, Beatrice moved, swinging the crowbar, connecting with the back of the woman's head, a crack, sharp, loud. The woman staggered, then fell. Still, the room went silent. The hum dropped, just slightly. Beatrice hit the ground hard, gasping. Get up, she rasped. I didn't argue. I grabbed the papers, the photos, everything I could carry. Move, I said. Daniel didn't need telling. We ran out of the room, down the corridor, up the stairs. The building seemed to shift around us again, but this time, it felt different, angrier. Because we hadn't just walked through it, we'd taken something from it, and it knew. It definitely knew. And as we reached the top of the stairs, the bell rang. Not once, not 3 times, but continuously, loud, relentless. like it was screaming. The bell didn't stop. Not when we reached the top of the stairs, not when we ran through the corridor, not even when we shoved the front doors open and stumbled out into the cold night air. It followed us, inside our heads, loud, relentless, wrong. I nearly tripped on the steps, catching myself on the railing as my vision blurred. "Keep moving," Beatrice shouted, grabbing my arm. Daniel was already ahead of us, half running, half stumbling across the grounds. The lights in the school behind us flickered violently, on, off, on again, like something inside was trying to force its way out. "Don't look back," I muttered. I looked anyway, and I wish I hadn't, because for a split second, in one of the upper windows, I saw them. Not one, not two, dozens. Figures standing still, watching. Every single one of them facing us. The bell rang louder. I turned away, heart pounding. "Through the fence," Beatrice snapped. We didn't slow down. We didn't stop. We squeezed through the gap, tearing our coats on the rusted metal, scraping skin, not caring. The moment we hit the path beyond, the bell cut out, instantly, like it had never been there. Silence rushed in, heavy, deafening. Daniel collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. "I'm done," he choked. No more. I'm not going back in there." "No one is," I said quickly. Beatrice didn't respond. She was staring at the school. Again, always looking back. "What?" I asked. She didn't answer. She just pointed. I followed her gaze. The lights, gone. All of them. The building stood dark again. Still. Silent. Like nothing had happened. Like it had never been awake at all. "That's not right," Daniel whispered. "No," I said. "It isn't." Because it wasn't over. I could feel that much. The headache was gone, completely. For the first time since I come back to Brackenmere, it was gone. And that should have felt like relief. But it didn't. It felt like something had let go. Not because it was finished, but because it didn't need to hold on anymore. Beatrice turned to me slowly. "Do you still feel it?" she asked. I shook my head. No. Her expression didn't relax. "That's worse," she said. "Why?" She didn't answer. Not directly. Instead, she reached into her bag, pulled out one of the papers we'd taken from the basement, and handed it to me. "Look." I took it, unfolded it. It was one of the diagrams, the wall, the connections, the strings, but something had changed. My breath caught. "That's not how it looked," I said. "No," she agreed, "it's not." The diagram had updated, rearranged, new lines, new connections, and at the bottom, 3 names, not part of the original layout, not scribbled, not crossed out, added, clean, deliberate. Oliver Marsh, Beatrice Shaw, Daniel Carter, all 3, connected to something, not a person, not a photo, a space, a blank space, where something was supposed to be. My chest tightened. "What is that?" Daniel asked. I didn't answer, because I already knew, or at least I understood enough. "It's not finished," I said quietly. Beatrice nodded. "No," she said, "it's not." Daniel shook his head. No, we left. We got out. It's done." I looked at him. "I thought that too," I said. He stared at me. "Then what does that mean?" I hesitated. "Then it means we didn't escape," I said. The words felt heavy, final. "It means we changed the pattern." Beatrice took the paper back, folding it carefully. "And now it's adjusting," she said. Daniel stepped back. No, that's not. This is insane." "Yeah," I said. "It is." He ran a hand through his hair, pacing slightly. "So what? What now? We just wait for it to, what, come after us?" I looked back at the school, at the dark windows, at the place that no longer felt like it was pulling me in. And that was the worst part, because the pull had been replaced by something else. Distance. Like it didn't need me there anymore. "No," I said slowly. "We don't wait." Beatrice glanced at me. "Then what?" I looked down at the diary still tucked under my arm, at the papers in her bag, at the evidence we'd taken. "We figure it out," I said. Daniel let out a hollow laugh. "Figure what out? That place is what, alive? Haunted? Cursed? Pick one." "All of them," Beatrice said quietly. He stopped pacing, looked at her. "That's not helping." "No," she agreed, "but it's true." Silence fell again. Then, a sound, distant, from somewhere down the street. A door creaking. We all turned instinctively, one of the houses a few doors down, the front door, slowly opening. Daniel frowned. "It's someone." The door stopped, halfway, and in the gap, a figure stood, still, watching, too far to see clearly, too still to be normal. My chest tightened. "Don't," Beatrice whispered. But it was too late. The figure moved, just slightly, tilting its head, and even from that distance, I knew. It wasn't someone who had just stepped outside. It was something that had followed. Daniel took a step back. "No," he said. "No." The figure stepped out onto the path. Slow, deliberate, the streetlights flickered above it, casting shadows that didn't line up properly. I swallowed. "That's not from the school," I said. Beatrice didn't answer, because she didn't need to. We all understood. Whatever we'd done in that basement, whatever we'd taken, we hadn't just uncovered something. We'd brought it with us. The figure took another step forward, and the streetlight above it went out. Darkness swallowed it, but I could still feel it there, watching, waiting, adjusting. Daniel's voice shook. "What do we do?" I didn't look away from the darkness, didn't blink, didn't move, because something told me, if I did, it would be closer. "We don't go back," I said quietly. Beatrice nodded beside me. "No," she agreed. "And we don't stay still," I added. "Then what?" Daniel whispered. I exhaled slowly, feeling that same pressure return. Not from the school this time, from something else, something wider, something that wasn't confined to one place anymore. "We run," I said. The darkness ahead shifted, just slightly, like it heard me and understood, and that's when it hit me. The part that made my stomach turn more than anything else. Brackenmere Grammar School was never the whole problem. It was just the start of it. What would you do if your memories weren't your own? Hit like if you found this story genuinely creepy and want more spine-chilling horror stories like this. What do you think is really happening in the school? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every one. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss truly terrifying horror stories and unsolved mysteries. Stay safe, and maybe don't go back to places that feel a little too familiar.